And you've previously mentioned the importance of conducting regular health checks of family businesses to monitor and rate the performance of their operations from a family relationship level and family dynamic level. Take us through your evaluation on the health and current strength of the family business sector based on your experience that you've seen.
Yes, it's going to be a bit difficult doing it face to face. I'd rather give you a document which would have about 40 questions, Rob, and then I'll tell you whether you've got a healthy family or not. But it goes to the essence of a family in business together. But it doesn't necessarily need to be a family in business together. It might be investments together. It just might be sitting around the kitchen table as a family. But it goes to the qualitative issues of life rather than the quantitative issues. And so I'm dealing with a lot of wealthy families. I have the privilege of working with a lot of wealthy families whose names are in lights. You can't tell them anything about business because they've got an impeccable track record. But what I've found over the last 12 years, when it comes to their family, they're in denial. Initially it's, oh, everything's fine. Oh, look, there's a few little tensions between the sisters and the brothers, but they'll get over it. But there's not really unity, there's not really harmony, and there's a lack of family continuity because the parents often are in denial. And they don't want to go there and have these sensitive questioning, sensitive discussions with their kids about a range of issues. And the most avoided issue is about, what am I going to do with my wealth? Who's going to get what? And so what happens, because we're not comfortable about talking about wealth and money and all those type of things, it stays under the table, it stays in our suitcases. And then the family has a tradition that gets carried on from generation to generation of not talking about these things. So I've got a range of 70 and 80-year-old baby boomers, okay? Baby boomers that have had tremendous business success. And though they're even in their 70s and 80s, they've not yet addressed the issue of what they're going to do with their wealth with their children. And their children today are in their 40s and 50s. And so what happens is, I then label them, they're in the fractured families list. And it doesn't matter how many squillions they've got, if you haven't got a meaningful relationship with your kids, if you haven't got that openness and unity to be able to talk about a range of issues and create a safe environment and give everyone, from the oldest to the youngest, from the smartest to the not so smartest, a voice at the table, whether they're involved in the family business or not, then you're going to have the potential for tension, and if that's not addressed, it goes to conflict, and from conflict then you get a fractured family. That's the focus at the moment. So there's a mounting crisis in Australia because too many wealthy families are not addressing the issues of succession, of entitlement, and who's going to get the wealth.
And you've obviously got a passion for this sector and for this sort of family advisory field. Where did that originate from? I think I read Point Made was launched sometime in the late 90s, potentially 2000s. Where did the passion and energy for that come from?
It came about very simply, Rob, when the Smorgon family broke up in 1995. After 70 years of harmony and togetherness and great financial and business success, we imploded. And it was a very sad occasion, and other members of the family will have different views about that, but to me it was very sad that we weren't able to continue the tradition into the fourth and fifth generation, like so many families do, because for many years, the Smorgon family, we had the right recipe. We had the right formula. Yes, there were bumps in the road and there were hurdles we had to jump and there was yelling and screaming, and we'd settled down and we got on with the business. And that all ended in 1995. And so I went away and said, what could we have done? Because at that time, we didn't find the suitable family advisors to help us ask the right questions, to help us resolve the issues. And maybe if we had the right advisors, and different advisors, might have been a different result. You'll never know. And so I went and did a lot of studying. I bought every book I could find on family businesses. I did a few courses with YPO, Young Presidents Organisation. And I found that the most important thing in family advisory is not to deal with the money, not to deal with the quantity, deal with the quality. Deal with all those issues that people of wealth struggle with, the same as those people that don't have that wealth struggle with. Every one of us have got our own fears, have got our own resentment, have got our own concerns, have got our own ambitions. You as an individual are part of a family, And a healthy family, a vibrant family, a family that believes in unity and harmony, gives every single person a voice at that table in a safe environment. So if you're not the brightest business person, or you're not interested in being in business, you're a violinist, you're a musician, why can't you express yourself and still play a role within that family structure? You shouldn't be alienated. You shouldn't be made to feel inferior because you're not a business person. And so many families that are well known in business, they alienate their kids because someone is not interested nor capable of participating in the family business. That's going to lead to friction. That's going to lead to tension, and that's going to lead to a fractured family, because then how do the parents deal with that particular individual when push comes to shove and they've got to make a decision about who's going to get what?
And when a client approaches you, where do you start?
You start with asking the first fundamental question, Rob: what do you want to achieve? How can I help you achieve your aims and objectives? Because they all vary. And I've had the pleasure and privilege of working with many family clients. And yes, there's a common theme. Most of it is, I just want the kids to like each other, to respect each other, and get around the Christmas table or the Passover table, because it upsets me and my wife, or my husband and I, whatever the case may be, because some kids aren't coming because their brother or sisters are there, or because we've had a falling out with mum or dad. It's basic, simple stuff. So put the wealth to one side. I've really got no interest how much they're worth, because wealthy to some might be $1 million and to others it might be $1 billion. Wealth is irrelevant. But the focus on so many families is about the quantity of the wealth, and our focus is on the quality of their life, the health of the family. As indicated, how do they communicate with each other? How do they talk to each other? How do they respect each other? Okay? All those simple things. And that's what comes out through what we would call a point-made health check. So it's a pretty accurate assessment initially, and there's a few tweaks along the way, because sometimes people don't actually call it as it is, but you only have to go and meet the kids and meet the family, and all of a sudden we see these are the issues where they're divided and these are the issues where they're connected. And so what we need to do is reduce the issues where they're divided and get more on the other side of the ledger of what connects them.
And how did you find the response from the business community once you'd launched the business, and what are some of the most common challenges that your clients are experiencing in the current environment?
Well, the current environment, as we discussed earlier, in a lot of sectors it's tough. If you're in the property business, property values might be going up, but there's not as many deals to be done, and so therefore, you know, the business is not making as much as what it ought to be in the good days. I think the lack of communication within a lot of families, the lack of clarity about how to even deal through these tough times, and particularly if you're in one of those sectors that's doing it tough, people don't know. It's all right in the good times. Everything's hunky-dory. We're buying new cars and new apartments and travelling around. Now it's tighten the belt time, and a lot of people don't know how to deal with crisis. And so that's part of where the advice comes in, to be realistic about the situation. Look, there's a lot of accountants and a lot of lawyers say they do family advisory work. And no disrespect for them, there's a role for them to play. But in my experience of doing this work for 12 years and listening to all of my clients, most of them don't get down and dirty. They're not going to ask the patriarch or the matriarch, what's keeping you awake at night, Rob? What do you want your legacy to be, Rob? And some might say, I want to be the richest guy in the cemetery. Well, that's fine. If that's what your objective is, you're leaving your kids behind, you're not interested, or that you don't rate them, not important for you, that's their call, because they do have choices. Every one of us has got a choice to make about our family. And if you just want to be the richest guy in the cemetery, you'll continue to focus 100% of your time on the business and you'll leave the family behind. I would hope by the work that we do, if there's any semblance of wanting family harmony and unity, they will want to have a closer family unit, they'll want to listen to others, and they'll see they've got choices and options to make that balance it up between the business and the family. And so the healthy families would be spending a lot of time on their family as much as nearly as what they do on their business.
To what extent do you rely on the Smorgon way philosophy in your dealings with some of these families?
Well, the Smorgon way was a statement about how we like to do business. Respect each other, no raised voices, two heads are better than one, putting back to the community, giving back. It was a basic philosophy that drove our decision making and drove the way we do business. You might have seen it in my foyer. It's on the the board outside, and that still drives me in Point Made, and often a lot of my clients come and say, gee, that's interesting, they want to explain, they want to take it away and adopt it themselves. So you just can't duplicate somebody else's way because it doesn't work. You've got to make it very personable to your situation, and that's what that does.
Now, in your role as a family advisor, I think in 2014 you joined PwC as Executive Chairman of Family Advisory.
That was a bit of a surprise, yeah.
Take us through your couple of years there, and then why did you go out on your own again?
Well, it was 5 years at PwC, and I never would have dreamt I was ever going to work for a professional services firm. But I must say it was a really fascinating and informative 5-year period. And I'm pleased that the outcome was that PwC went into the family advisory space. We were successful in getting a lot of new clients to PwC that started off as family advisory and now moved in to tax, M&A, or whatever the case may be. So that was good. But frankly, PwC came to me a couple of years ago and said, David, we'd like you to sign a 5-year contract, which is very nice of them, particularly when they're tapping other partners on the back at 55 and say, thanks very much. But I was 71 and a half at the time. I said, guys, thank you very much. But, you know, at my stage of my life, I really don't want to be signing 5-year contracts. And so we did a very pleasant deal where I bought back Point Made from them. And so some of the team from PwC joined me back at Point Made, doing the same family advisory work. So I'd put it down, it was a great experience for me. I felt I did my very best for them. They were a very good employee, and it was a great experience.
And what about the growth of the Point Made business? I think it's been in operation for circa 9 or so years now, but how have you actually managed the growth of the business, and are there more clients now than there were 10 years ago, given that the wealth of people on the fractured family list or the AFR rich list is only increasing? It's
a very defined business that we want to aspire to be Australia's preeminent family advisory firm, but we're only based in Melbourne, and we're really at the pointy end of town because that's where I think the real issues are, and that's where we go from the rich list to the fractured families list. And our job is to keep the families not only rich, but rich in their family environment as well. And we've got a different process, frankly, that's a lot of others sort of adapt to and are similar. But it really gets to the nitty-gritty. I need to understand the real Rob Langdon to try and help you and your family before I come up with solutions and options for you. And you're going to be different to Billy Brown and Janet Smith, right? That's just the reality of it. And it's the ability to listen, it's the ability to understand what they want to achieve, and then provide some options and choices for them to make. Because it's not our job as family advisors to sit in judgment. You ask me for an opinion about how you're doing things or what you should do, I'll give it to you. But I don't sit in judgment and say, Rob, you're wrong doing this. I can't impose my values on your values. But we can have a meaningful discussion that those get flushed out. So the process has been working. I'm very pleased. I'm probably working a bit harder than what I would have envisaged, but I love making a difference. And so when I get a phone call like I did, a couple of phone calls this year, day after Christmas on Boxing Day, David, I just want to thank you. We actually went to Mum and Dad's and we had an incredible time. I never thought it was possible during the year, but thanks to you and your team's work, we actually got to Christmas. Well, you hang up the phone and you've made a difference, Rob.